Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of The Outsiders. This is Jerome, and this is a QQ, a quick question episode. Um, was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and I thought to myself I should try to think about this and see what I can put out as it relates to that. Like, what's my original thoughts? And I think sometimes via the podcast, I'm able to ramble myself into an opinion or into a thought or into a theory that I might have behind something. No, this is definitely something I would say it's a question that's rooted in culture, history, and bias, um, you know, of society for quite some time. Of course, it would be a topic that might not be easy for people to engage with, but it's something that I feel like at least I'll try to speak on it without any. I mean, I will have biases because that's what human beings have. But the question that I was asked by my friend was that why is it that I would say black women tend to be hated? Also, the perspective that black women tend to be hated by the same race at times. I do think this is 100% deep. So, of course, this is going to be a quick question, but these are just my opinions on it and my theories that I guess I've sourced from my mind in some kind of way. Where do I start? Well, first thing first, I think my friend she actually shared with me a clip via Instagram of a guy saying that he's willing to date anyone but a black woman. And you know, the instant reaction from me was like, yeah, these people are stupid. But, then I thought to myself, we all do this ourselves. We have preferences. We have things that we like, things that we don't like. Now, this is not to say that to some extent what a black woman or even a minority group and being a woman, so it's like being minority squared, gets sometimes. It's just like, yeah, how? Like, what is it having a daughter in a society where people will look at that and just because of the skin, they will be like, okay, yeah, makes no sense. It's a non-negotiable. On the other hand, we find people also have these type of non-negotiables when it comes to other preferences. But I genuinely don't think these things are entirely fair because sometimes you don't know what works for you or what will or won't work for you. Um, yeah. So I think there are multiple things that shape this, and I guess one of them for sure would be the historical perspective. Colonialism, slavery plays a part in our perception of what is beauty and what is even desirable to some. Because I know, as I said, a female is a double minority, but I do think males have it too. However, within the community, say a black community, it's more likely to hear this coming from a black man than from a black woman. I personally, my sample size, haven't heard a black woman saying she doesn't want to be with a black man. However, to go on that, I've seen this growing up in high school in Jamaica, where granted they won't say they don't want a black man, and they want somebody tall, dark, and handsome, but they still go for the person that's more of a mulatto, a mix. So I mean, I guess that's some in some sense saying it without saying it, but I think it's really much more worse when it's these are things that people use every day, platforms, social media platforms, the internet in general. And if you find that you're growing up, you're 7 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, and when you go on it, everything that you see, everything that's modeled, everything that's showed as beauty, or even just in the sense of advancement, is somebody of a different complexion to yours, then it affects how the mind of you and the others in within your community, within the same what do I say that now? Within the same features of you, feel about themselves, via self-esteem, or how they feel people feel about them. You know, I know for me, there are times when that has happened to me where I feel like, I am the black guy, therefore everyone is looking at me in the middle of a room, or because I'm black, I will not get to dance with someone, or someone will not be interested in me because I'm black, which is really unfortunate to say, and really something tough to accept, I would say, because you know what really matters sometimes, and you learn this over time, and you hear people say this when they get older, depending, of course, if your grandma was always when she grew up in the racist society, or saw how black was treated versus a lighter skin tone, then she might still be of the belief, because I feel like even with me, or with people in general, like their grandmas would be like, "Yeah, don't be with somebody too black." I'm like, wow, like how how is this fair? Like, what can someone do about who they love or who they fall in love with? That's even a bigger part of it. It's like sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you meet someone and it clicks, but because of the historical narratives in media and culture, these ideas or these opinions you know, get like reinforced in our minds as what's beauty. I remember even for me, I had some difficulty when I was really, really young, and because of what the TV shows of the time was, and it wasn't much animation, but more like I don't know what you call it, like Blue's Clues type of thing, but with less animation. So it was those type of show like Sesame Street and stuff, and the people that would come on would be of the lighter complexion, and they will be still addressing things that you probably experience, but they're lighter skin. So it's like you want to be in that group of people. It create that desire within media. And I think within black communities, I don't think a lot of black women are portrayed. I mean, okay, so of course you can take the what is it, Martin Luther King perspective, that it's improved, and improvement is something. We can go Malcolm X and be like, they will never like us. So this is the whole X-Men Magneto, Professor X perspective. But I would say how black women are portrayed in TV and even in music videos. Like remember, like very hypersexualized, one in music videos, in TV usually one miserable, two unattractive, a mess, you know in movies likewise, sometimes in media, how I would say even hip hop culture, which is a big part of black culture, has displayed relationships and celebrity relationships between two black people, or even not even that, like you never see a black rapper that you really like with a black woman. It will always be a supermodel, or someone who is an actress, or someone who. So it's usually the lighter skin. So that thing, I think sometimes we don't give enough credit of how much this seeps into our mind, like via incognito, you know, without us actually acknowledging that these things are putting traces of things in our head, and we then eventually fall into it, and then we start desiring certain things. Like, remember at one point in time, what is now considered thick was considered fat, by the media and stuff like that. And I think that happens for people within the black culture, especially women. And I don't think it's 100% fair. It's not something that I feel like we give enough attention to, but we all know it's there. It's that like that silent It's that loud whisper in the room actually, or the silent shout in the room. It's like everyone kind of knows, and I'm not taking away from the fact that I do see efforts being made to it, but I would, you would love for everyone to feel equal, but that's not the real world, unfortunately, But I think there's some parts of it where, and the problem also is that this thing about being thick is not just about being attractive. It's now being sexualized or not being. So, if someone is quote unquote thick, a woman with a big ass or something like that, instead of thinking, hey, let's talk to her, let's hear her thoughts, sometimes they become immediately sexualized. And then they can't move or they can't progress from that way of being viewed thanks to hip hop culture, the music videos culture, or even just the story of celebrity relationships. Whenever someone's with a black girl, what should be accepted is that beauty is beauty from whichever standpoint it is. And also that not everyone finds beauty the same way, but we do get influenced by media, which is unfortunate. And I think I remember saying that there was a theory that came to my mind, and excuse me if this is off center, but this is something that I think happens, especially within the black community. Also, is that women are portrayed to men as one miserable. Black women are portrayed to men as being miserable and being lacking accountability, and what else would I say? Well, let me just use those two, and also being quote unquote fake, where it's like, yeah, you put on the fake here, you put on, and it's because media and culture influence them to think that that is the standard of beauty, you know. And sometimes when someone goes against the status quo, it either goes two ways. It could go terribly good or terribly bad, where it's like, yo, she's beautiful, she has the confidence, she believes in herself. Or it goes into, yeah, this is why you need to put that on, And I remember there's a movement like Black Girl Magic and like Black Boy Joy, those things still, I guess, they kind of died out. But when I think about how black men are viewing women, black women, I have to acknowledge that this is 100% a theory created in my head. Imagine growing up in a house where, according to some statistics at least, majority of the black culture is single mom homes, right? You grow up in that culture as a black man. This is once again my theory. And remember, while growing up as a black kid, you have the whole media and stuff that I mentioned around you, how things are represented, right? And then your mom is a part of that. And your mom, you see your mom, probably the dad tries to reach out to the mom or try to have a conversation with the mom, and she snaps at the dad, right? So that's one. That's women are always miserable. Black women are always miserable. But when I watch TV, I Love Lucy, she's always happy and cheery and she makes funny jokes. Just try and follow me here. Two, watching TV and seeing what a family is, like the Cosby Show, which I think was really positive, but then living in the reality that you don't have that, right? And remember, Bill Cosby was black. His wife was black. Claire Obstacle was black, but not Bill Cosby black. And that plays a part in the mind also. So it's like, hold on, this is why I probably shouldn't go for that, even though I'm living with this. And as much as they see it as strength from the black woman sometimes, and how they even will vocalize this will be like, yo, black women strong as hell. They put their foot down, whatever it is. They still will not probably accept that strength can make a family. So therefore they revert to what maybe um the Cosby Show family structure applies to, and it's just, yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. It's sometimes, just the preferences and how, I guess, societal pressure within the black communities happens, where it's like, the second someone is of a lighter skin, their features tend to be more attractive for some reason, and as I said, I feel like it's media. I feel like sometimes it's, as I said, you think your mom is the strongest in the world, but then you don't want to deal with the quote unquote strongest. You know you want to take the easier route, I guess, because I've heard that too, where people say, yeah, the white woman will not complain, or the lighter skinned woman, they do this, they do that, and the black woman, and it's like, come on, there's no way, there's no person that's every what do you call it again, when you say something that generalize something about like specifically a culture or even just a feature of someone. So like you say, every woman always cries watching Titanic. It's like, no, there exists no woman that exists that don't. So I would say the generalization of thinking that every black woman is like that, I would say it's a weakness within our community of men. Like men not taking the stance to be like, yo, we can work through this. We have a lot of internalized trauma, I think, within our culture, as I mentioned, slavery itself. And people sometimes don't believe that that gets passed down into you mentally. Like when something comes across your table, I even remember, like, I think it was COVID. I was like, immediately when I heard of it, I became more skeptical. And then when you find out the story of what happens in the past with black people, you're like, hold on, is this something that's internally affecting me that I'm not even acknowledging myself? So I think we have to. There are both sides of it where I do think it happens from both sexes, but I do also have to acknowledge that I think black women have a hard time being accepted in the community that they're from and also outside. And not saying that men has it easy, but it's easier. It's the easy of the two. If you know how society moves and you had to choose between the two, I think a lot of people would definitely go more to the male side. But I've seen so many strong black women. My mom is a strong black woman. What I mean? I've seen so many of them make themselves or grow themselves, and even just this, you know it's almost like most times you see the black woman. I guess I would say that's probably something positive from the Olivia Pope character. I can't remember the name of that show, but I think it gave a lot of women belief that, okay, she became a lawyer, she went into politics, she did, her thing. And even with Kamala, to some extent, you can see that there's some distaste about one, her being a woman, and her not being quote unquote fully white. Because some I know it's primarily the black community, but there's also other minority groups that face these things, and I think it's just genuinely an ugly point of view that we tend to have, and we need to try and stop. Like, you need to break the stereotypes. Like, this should be something where everyone feels like a human being. Like, to go on a platform or to go somewhere to be videoed and they're like, yeah, what do you talk about? Am I going to be like, yeah, but anything but Asian woman? No. On the other hand, think about the fact that sometimes these things validate us. Where imagine if the guy, instead of saying no, he wouldn't date a black woman, he said, yeah, no white woman. I also think a lot of black women would be like, I know that's right, and it's man, look, life is complicated and life's a card. It's like a deck of cards. Everything, anything comes up, everything's different. But, also I'll state that, I'm not like a sociologist. I didn't go deep into this. I'm not a cultural commentator either. I'm just me. And what I've seen and what I've observed are these things. And these things itself, I feel like play a grand role in the beauty standard and how the narratives are created for different cultures and the significance it plays. You know, within each culture there are diverse viewpoints, but when it comes into your culture and then they jump along with the diverse viewpoints. So say for example, within the white culture, they're like, yeah, we don't date black girls. That's fine for them because they're within their culture. But whatever our culture is, we should support it. No, I'm not saying we go into the Nazi role where it's like, yeah, they think they're the best, we kill it. No. Within legal constraint, what you should accept is always wanting everyone to win, one, but ensure that your culture also gets covered. That's my opinion. Anyways, this was an episode of, this was a quick question episode, and thank you guys for listening. The Outsiders. If you have any opinions on this, can share with us. If you want to tell us how did, if you have any societal pressure that actually shape your views on what's attraction. Like I can admit that growing up, as I said, watching certain, I don't know what you call them, TV show for kids like Sesame Street and stuff. And it was always, yeah, the white girl or the white young boy, or they're the ones getting to dance. You never really see the black kid. And that I think shaped some of what I wanted to be also by my self esteem, So yeah, reach out. Any comments will be appreciated. Thank you guys for listening. And that was an episode of The Outsiders. I'm Jerome. See you next time.